Hey guys, Todd Vandermite here for another edition of Freedom Steel. This is going to be a little different edition today. I want to talk about the NRA a little bit, and so let's get on with it after the intro. Hey everybody, Todd Vandermite back for another edition of Freedom Steel, former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, and so we're going to talk about something that I know a little bit about. It's the NRA. And sorry I've been absent for a while, taking care of the wife. She's getting better. We did buy a motorhome, so we've been trying to do a couple of trips. Went up to the EAA Oshkosh festival. Great time. Great time. If you're interested in old warbirds and everything else, it's all good. So let's sit back this afternoon. Let's have a couple conversations about things that are a little different. There's a ton of stuff. I have 12 different topics to get to on the litigation front. We'll get to those. I'm going to try to record some videos today. But I wanted to talk to you about something that's come up recently. And so last month, the Supreme Court issued its decision in Cargill. It was the bump stock case. And it found against the ATF in lieu of the bump stocks and said, nope, they do not fit the definition of a machine gun. Great. All good for our side. Now, back in the day, NRA was supportive of some form of bump stock ban. Strategically thinking, trying to minimize damage. I don't know. Wasn't inside. Don't know what their thinking was or why or how they arose at that decision. But in hindsight, as Mark Smith has pointed out, that that administrative action thwarted congressional action and ultimately led to a win in the Supreme Court that looks like it is now going to pay dividends on FRTs and other things. But right after the decision came out, NRA released a press release praising the Cargill decision. And some YouTubers got out there and just kind of pilloried NRA. Hey, you were for the bump stock ban, and now you're sending this press release out. And they just piled on. Look, the NRA hasn't always been everything that everybody wants. And I know that's why GOA bills themselves as the old compromise gun lobby and all that stuff. But I watch these guys, and they have bigger followings than I do on YouTube. But I watch these guys throwing bricks at the house. And it's like, what are you accomplishing? The NRA, as we sit here in July of 2024, is not the NRA that existed when the Cargill case started, nor when the Las Vegas shooting happened. And so we've had Wayne's ouster. We've had reform candidates elected to the board who are making changes. We've had a reform person elected as EVP and all that. And I get it. You want to poke the NRA for what they did 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. I get it. Look, I was a contractor as a lobbyist for the NRA. I got fired via an email that never explained why. I have no reason to have a boatload of love for the NRA and the way I was treated in that matter. But I still believe in their mission. There's nobody else that can do what they do. Nobody else has a training division as large as the NRA. Nobody else has the ability to put lobbyists in all 50 states, whether on contract or in-house or whatever. And look, I can sit there and tell you the problems that existed with lobbyists having multiple states and the way those states were assigned and all that. That's why I got hired. They needed a full-time person to manage what was going on in Illinois. I get it. Nobody else does some of the things that the NRA does. Now, they don't do everything perfectly. I'll admit that. I saw it up close and personal more than a lot of other people did, and I wasn't even at headquarters or an employee. But if you're going to throw rocks, then have a solution. And the solution isn't just to throw rocks. And the solution isn't just, well, go sign up for this group or go sign up for that group. I've got memberships in more groups than I can remember. And I look at this, and it's disappointing because this is when the gun community forms a circular firing squad. And I think the problem here is that it is way too easy to get on YouTube, to get on social media, to get on blogs. And understand, I started doing this stuff within rights movements with the motorcycle guys, the MRF, a Beta of Illinois, when CompuServe was the latest and greatest thing, and Rush Limbaugh was pimping CompuServe on a daily basis. I'm showing my age. And I started that, and we went from fax trees to CompuServe and the internet to what you see today. I still remember the handshake modem and that whole thing with AOL and You Got Mail. And if you look, my AOL, I still use AOL for my main email address. It is way too easy to sit there and criticize across the internet or anything, YouTube, whatever. If you really want to make a difference, then you got to get into the fight. You have to roll your sleeves up and get in and do the dirty work. You have to put the time in for committee meetings. And I'm not just talking about phone calls and emails or letters or whatever. But if you want to do this, you really have to jump in and get inside the wheelhouse. And in this, I think Teddy Roosevelt's speech hits it square on the nose. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows at the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. And so that is his place, shall ever be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And so last year, Jeff Knox led a team of the Four for Reform. And with that, they won seats on the NRA board. And here's my thing. You want to criticize the NRA? Great. I can tell you all kinds of stories of where the NRA failed in Illinois. I can tell you how they spent more money in certain states to prove a point than money in Illinois to change things. But let's look at recent history. The NRA has spent, that we know of, at least $182 million on Brewer. I'm going to guess it's closer to 200 and maybe going up from there. Now, if you had given me $200 million to run a program, I'd put $100 million towards elections. That's $2 million a state. And I'd put $100 million towards litigation. And trust me, having been involved in the litigation up to my eyeballs in Illinois on the semi-auto ban, knowing how expensive it is when the lawyer tab is running, doing depositions and briefs and all that stuff, $100 million towards litigation, that makes a difference in the two-way rights of all Americans instead of lining the pockets of some lawyer who has a losing streak that makes the Republican Party in Chicago blush. This is where it can change. And it's way too easy to throw rocks at the NRA just because. I get it. You don't like them. You want them to be more like GOA. Well, the only way they get to be more like GOA, FPC, SAF, is if people run for the board. And you know what that means? That means you have to put yourself out there. You have to have the time and the dedication that you're going to fix this thing from within. And now that Wayne's gone, we have the opportunity to fix it from within. I've seen this story about 10 million gun owners that aren't registered to vote. And everybody's all spooled up about that. But if 25 people step up to run for the NRA board, like some of these YouTubers that are great at throwing rocks, we can change it from within. We can make the NRA the juggernaut that the anti-gunners believed it to be, and we can become their worst nightmare. $200 million that's redirected away from frivolous litigation and moved into the defense of the right to keep and bear arms. But that means you have to step up, put your name on the line, be willing. Jeff Knox didn't win his first election, may not have won his second election, but he finally got there. And I'll give Jeff credit for being the man in the ring, going to the membership meetings, voicing his opinion. It's not always popular. And Jeff and I may not agree on everything, but I will applaud the guy that got himself elected to the board because he wants to see the right thing done. That's the man in the ring. And that's what I'm challenging these other YouTubers to do. Step up. You have to be a life member. You have to have been a life member for 5 years. Step up. Quit throwing rocks and criticizing unless you are willing to step up. Put the time in. 4 or 5 board meetings a year. Yeah, it takes time. Serve on committees. Do the right thing. I know what it was like to convince NRA to instigate lawsuits like Shepard, like Gowder, like Lawson, and to take all that stuff on. And I've been through that. I know some of the internal workings that used to exist. But the only way you're going to change it, and trust me, I had board members at the time critical of me as a contract lobbyist because I got in the newspapers more than the PR department did. Why? Because the PR department refused to talk to the press. So I did. And they didn't like some of the headlines we garnered when we won. And I said that, hey, look, if they don't pass a law, we can walk down the street with an AR-15 across our back and open carry. And I got castigated and chewed out by board members because they didn't think that was the right thing. That wasn't the right message. But the issue was we had just won a federal court case at the Court of Appeals, and it was time to grind the other side's nose in dog shit. So, nominations for the board of directors are open right now until the 4th of August. And these other guys that have thrown rocks at the NRA, I'm going to challenge guys. Run. Because if we can get enough guys on the board of directors, think about a group that, from what I'm told, the other gun groups, and I love them all, and I'm a member of a lot of them. Their annual budgets, aggregate, are about $20 million. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody call me out on it, let me know. But think about the money we spent on Brewer in this frivolous litigation. And if we rein this all in turning $200 million around, and then NRA can be, a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier in this world if directed correctly. So I'll have more to say on this a little later. That's my thought for today, but this has been grinding on me for a while, and trust me, I have, I'm not always happy with every decision that was made at NRA, but at the time I was a contractor and I was the bottom rung on the ladder. And I did my best to influence things going up the food chain. But elect the right board, and that all changes. So as always, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, pass this around, share this around. We really appreciate all your thoughts and prayers for my wife and everything. And as always, frag out.